Hey, man, have you ever heard of Tarrare?
Tarrare? No. Is this like the beginning stages of Toronto?
No.
Okay.
No, Tarrare is a French dude from the 1770s who's famous for
All right. Have you ever heard of Tarrare?
I don't know what to
Did we need
call
to
this.
take a longer break?
No, for just eating a lot. He's this famous enough that we're talking about him
For eating a lot?
200 years later. Yes.
You got him a little corn dog, Disneyland corn dog. Shout out.
Yeah, so they kicked him out of the army because he was
a trash
he was
eater.
being weird.
I didn't know that was a way you could get kicked out of the army.
Drink the blood.
I don't want to talk about it. I can't think about
Yeah,
it.
you don't like blood.
Oh,
That's
I
sorry.
hate it. I saw
Sketchier.
Alex also get visibly uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you this. There's a store down the street that sells ostrich eggs, right? Things I learned last night.
We'll start from the top of the story. Tarrare was born in 1772 in France. And
famous eaters. How many famous eaters do you know? I know Tarrare and Joey Chestnut. Exactly. You knew exactly where I was going.
Joey
Here's what I love.
Chestnut.
Here's what I love. And and I guess Jared Fogel's a famous eater as well. But like
Can you see that?
it's what he was famous for that. I think I can say that.
Department of Justice was like, hey, you have to give us all that food back.
You can't mention his name anymore.
I don't know.
But no, I love that every picture of Joey Chestnut. Like, imagine you're famous. If you don't know who Joey Chestnut is, first of all, get a life.
Yeah.
Second of all, he wins the Nathan's hot dog contest every year.
Yeah, he's got the world record.
I mean, yeah, and one time he was late, and the second place guy was like, "This is my time to shine," and then Joey showed up. The crowd lost its freaking mind.
Yeah.
And every picture you see of him, he looks like he is like about to explode.
Yes,
from every orifice of his body, just hot dog meat.
Yep, exactly. That's
Just
I hate that you
freaking.
said
He sneezed, and a little piece of hot dog came out of his eye.
Came out of his eye.
So, say his name again. Tarrare.
Tarrare. Yeah, he was
Is
famous.
this where we get the word ton?
No.
Okay.
He was famous for eating just a lot. So
Was he a very fat man?
No.
Really?
So
I hate that too.
So
I hate skinny people who eat a lot.
here's the thing about Tarrare.
Why'd you make that sound?
Here's the thing about Tarrare. That's this guy. He.
Oh, I know another famous eater.
Who? Who?
Let's say it together on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Jeffrey Dahmer. We can cut it, but it was worth it for a clip.
That's closer. So Tarrare.
She said it's closer.
I did say it's closer.
Maybe we don't cut it then.
So
Is he a cannibal?
Gray area.
Okay.
So Tarrare, from a young age, had an insatiable appetite to the point where he would eat everything. So, like, his parents would prepare a meal. He would eat the meal. And then he would eat the trash. And then he would eat, like, the scraps that, like, you don't feed people, like, that you give to the dog and stuff like that. He would eat that. And then he would eat, like, weird...
The bones.
Yeah, like peculiar stuff, like the bones or, like, the plates. Or, like...
No.
Just keep...
Oh, yes, this is a very good plate.
This is a good plate.
And he's biting the can. You give him a can of soup, and he's like actually biting the can.
That is a good can.
He opens it.
Sorry, do you got any aluminum I could put on this steak? I just like to chip up some aluminum and put it on my
Yeah,
sandwiches.
he's like go to Olive Garden and they got a little cheese spill thing, and he's like, "Yeah, could you put the broomstick in that, please? Just wood shavings." What do you mean he's eating all the stuff? He's like, is he really eating plates?
Yeah, so he's literally eating anything that he can find, whether it's food or not. And at an early age, he develops a taste for raw meat. He begins to love raw meat, and he can't get enough of it. And so his parents will like buy meat from the butcher to like make a meal, and he'll eat it before they can cook it. Yeah, he's like, oh sweet.
Oh sweet, thank God.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got me. Yeah. But
What?
It got extreme because he would never feel satiated, and so he would. What are you looking at?
I was just.
He would never feel satiated, so he would leave the house after eating these meals
Look for more food?
and look for more food.
I used to do that too.
And he started finding like rats and like squirrels and bunnies and things just out in the fields and eating them live. And so his parents were concerned because this is
How old is he at this
insane behavior. He's a child.
point? Yeah, imagine taking your 5-year-old to Disneyland, right? And you're having a good time. You got him a little corn dog, Disneyland corn dog, shout out. And then you are,
There's
you
like
got the
one of
cotton
those
candy.
peacocks that they've gotten.
Oh, I was going for the squirrel, but yeah, they got a peacock walking by, and it's like, and you guys are all looking at it like, get a picture, right? You take a picture, all right? And then he just, he just. Full mouth. Like are you talking about the head of the peacock?
Yeah, he's just. Yeah. Yeah, that's the kid. That's this kid.
You look over hours later, standing in line for Space Mountain, he's flossing his teeth with one of its feathers.
I swear. Okay, this is gonna sound crazy, but I swear I saw the kid eat a peacock earlier. Don't look.
Dude,
don't look now.
Do not make eye
not look.
contact.
Do not look.
Honestly, though, don't make eye contact.
Here's the craziest part about it. I saw him hanging out with the mathletes.
Those are the cool kids.
So, by the age of 17,
He was so mad that they were costumes when he got to Mickey Mouse. Dude, he saw Mickey Mouse walking up. He's like, cancel our dinner plans. I'm done eating for a week. Oh man, this is gonna fill me up. Look how huge that mouse is. Yeah, he bit into it. He's like, what the? I'm still gonna eat it.
I'm still gonna eat it. But I'm disappointed.
I'm mad that it wasn't what I wanted.
Mad about it. So
what?
So by the age of 17,
This is in the 1790s now.
yeah, by the age of 17, his parents have had enough because he's costing them a lot.
Yeah, of
He
money
eats
and
all their
social.
food. Yeah, nobody wants to hang around with him. Here's the thing about him too. If you have that kind of a diet, you smell bad. That's just that comes with the territory.
He's not fat.
Yeah, so he weighed about 100 pounds at 17.
Well, I guess if you're eating stuff, I mean, it's going straight through. Your intestines are a hole now because you're
just eating
swallowed glass and stuff.
Yeah,
at this
you're just
point.
eating crazy stuff, and yeah.
What are his? Okay.
Yeah. So
How is his body processing any of this?
there's a lot of questions there.
Okay.
How
do we know this story too?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
It's pretty well documented because of something we'll get to in a little bit. But
The revolution?
Revelation.
No,
Revelation 5:9.
it's in the Constitution. It's like we the people, all the stuff, right? You get it. And at the very end, it's like, oh, by the way, there's also a weird 4-year-old, who's 4 at the time, walking around, eating everything. So we've made several copies of this paper just in case.
If he shows up,
This paper is
You'll smell
also
him.
a bearer bond. If you hold this paper,
you own
the United States. P.S. Do you pray? That's all on there. People haven't read the Constitution, dude.
Nobody's read it. Nobody knows.
Everyone's like a big 2A guy. I'm like a do you pray guy.
Do you pray?
know?
Yeah. So he.
Oh, say, do you pray? That's the original lyrics.
I'm trying so hard to ditch this bit.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I had the bit. I ate even more, right? And then when the bit was done and it was just a plate, I ate that too.
So Tarrare's parents were like, man, nobody wants to come to our house because it smells really bad because of you. Also, you're
His
really
house
expensive.
smells bad because of him?
Yeah, there's rumors. I doubt this is true, but there's rumors that you could see the smell coming off of him, that it would like a cartoon. I don't know about that. There's like a mist that followed him.
Out of the mist comes Tarrare. That actually would be scary.
You got anything to eat? Yeah, so his parents kicked him out, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Because he cost too much and was jeopardizing the rest of their lives. And so he goes into the city in France, London. London, yeah, right? Yeah. Londonese.
Okay, so he goes where?
He goes to London.
Okay.
And he meets a group of street performers and he gets in close with them.
He's like, I can eat stuff.
Yeah, and so he's like, I'll eat whatever you want me to eat. I bet people would like that. And so that's what he did. So he got into
Eating stuff
on the street for money. And it worked out great. He had a great reputation in town because what he would literally do is he'd be like, bring me whatever you want.
Hey guys, circus in town, follow the smell.
And he would just say, bring me whatever you want and I'll eat it. And people would bring animals. They would bring
small children,
like literal like porcelain items, entire baskets of apples. He had this interesting thing where his jaws were really, really wide. And so he could fit a dozen eggs in his cheeks. And so he would pop open his jaw.
How many eggs do you think you could fit?
Maybe 4. How many eggs do you think?
2 on each side?
Fit? Yeah.
I could probably fit. What? Do you know what I'm going to say?
What percentile of egg?
I think I could fit as much eggs as you and Brie could both fit in your mouths. I could fit in my single mouth.
Just one side.
One side too, yeah.
Yeah, I bet he could fit a dozen.
I bet I could fit 12 dozen. 144 eggs. Let's try it when
Remember that time really early in the podcast when we were talking about throwing eggs and we went and we paused it and we threw eggs for the bit? Remember that?
Yeah.
Should we pause it and go
see
who can
fit
more eggs in our mouths? Someone else's mouth.
Someone else's mouth?
Hey, I'm
so in this scenario, we're now hunting for the All right, let's do it. We'll be back.
All right, so the most I got was 6.
Yeah, so I found this girl downstairs who, we put a dozen in and it was like nothing even happened, right? Unfazed, right? So I was like, well, I'm going to tell you this. There's a store down the street that sells ostrich eggs, right? And she fit, and this is not a joke, 7 ostrich eggs in her mouth.
Here's the crazy part. One of them burst, and there was a live ostrich
there was an ostrich
in her mouth.
And she was like, started choking, and I was like, how do people know how to do this before the Heimlich?
It's a good thing we have a maneuver for this.
This is crazy that we have a Heimlich maneuver for this. So I saved her life. So not only did I win the contest, but I'm also a hero, and I want that on the record.
For context, right before we recorded this, I asked Jared a question, and he can't stop ridiculing me about it.
Yeah, because ask your question. You reveal to everyone how stupid you are.
So my question was what do you think? Like,
the Heimlich maneuver
have you ever
was
thought
invented.
about?
Have you ever thought? Okay, so I'll let you phrase it however you want to.
Have you ever thought about the fact that before the Heimlich maneuver was invented, that eating lunch, just at any time, could kill you? Like you were just gonna die. And I was like, the Heimlich maneuver is what, 200 years old? Mm-hmm. Looked it up, 1974. And before that, people assumed, they didn't know that was like choking. They didn't know the signs of what choking looked like. So they just thought people were having heart attacks.
Sure.
And so before that, if you were eating lunch, you could just die and no one would do anything about it.
Pretty crazy. Here's what I think. I think people have known how to do that for like a long time.
I don't think so.
I think it's pretty intuitive.
Why would they put Heimlich's name on it if he didn't come up with it?
Yes. And my joke to Tim wasn't it crazy that before Newton discovered gravity, everyone was just floating around all the time?
That's different though.
It's not that different.
Because it existed before.
Sure.
The Heimlich maneuver didn't exist before.
Yeah, but people could figure out how to pat people on the back to get them to unchoke, or...
Yeah, but that's not the same as the Heimlich maneuver. That's just patting someone on the back. That's burping them. It's
All
not
right,
dope.
we need to take another break real quick to study up on the Heimlich maneuver. We'll be back.
Cool.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like this podcast and you want more of it, please leave a review. That's super helpful to let others know who are searching for a podcast. And if you're new around here, we've been doing this for several years, and there's plenty of episodes to check out. One of my personal favorites is Agent Garbo. It was a guy who went to the government during World War II and was like, hey, let me be a double agent. And they were like, no. And then he was like, well, I'm gonna. And so he kind of went off on his own, did the thing. And it's also got some crazy details about World War II, about how the U.S. used inflatable tanks to trick Germany, all kinds of fun stuff. But if you want to go check that out, you can. But thank you so much for listening to this podcast.
All right, so I found a girl downstairs and I was able to give her 12.
I was like, I want to make sure that she chokes on as many eggs as possible. Choke on some eggs, dude.
Okay, so here's the thing. It's for a TikTok. We need you to choke.
We need you to swallow this egg whole. Shell and all.
Don't worry, we'll Heimlich you. We've watched.
Yeah, she's like, and then she almost called us on it too, because she's like, "It's for a TikTok. Are you guys gonna film it?" And we were like, "Oh yeah."
Oh yeah. Sorry, I got to download the app real quick.
Hey, I'm not really stealing your car right now. It's for a TikTok. Is there a camera? Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know, somewhere.
Don't worry
around
about
here.
that.
Just hit a camera.
So anyway, I don't know what we were talking about. He fit 12 eggs in his mouth.
Yeah, he can fit 12 eggs in his mouth.
How do we say his name again?
Tarrare. And people would bring just any item and be like, "Hey, you eat this," and he'd be like, "Okay." And
this was like his town square street performing trick.
Yeah, one of the favorite things that they would do is they would bring him a basket of apples, and he would literally just, because his mouth was so wide, he could just open it up and pour these apples, and he would just swallow them, like chug a basket of apples. A freak of nature. He was only 100 pounds, remember? I mentioned that. When he would do this, his gut would fill up like he was a pregnant lady. But when that...
So he looked like a python swallowed a deer.
Kinda. When he would digest, though, all that skin was still there. And what he would do, because it was so much skin...
Cut it off and eat it.
I'm kind of surprised that he didn't. No, he wrapped it around him like a belt and tied it like... It was like... like a what do you call that?
He has that much loose skin?
Yeah, because it was literally like huge amount of skin that would stretch out, and he would throw it over his shoulder.
How would his stomach not rip? How would his intestines not explode?
These are interesting questions that you're asking, which we'll get to. And so he did.
How did he not choke on something? Surely they knew a maneuver.
They didn't have it. Luckily, he was just lucky.
Luckily,
he was just lucky.
You know, here's my other theory. Maybe people didn't choke before it was invented.
Oh, because we thought of it.
Yeah.
That's what started choking.
Yeah.
That guy, it's a conspiracy. He invented choking. and the way to say
yes.
He's like, oh, you're choking.
It's the same way that iPhones gave us too big of phones, and now they go, we have an iPhone mini.
You got a smaller one.
Yeah. Fits right in your pocket. Unlike these tablets we're giving out.
Man.
Anyway.
Down with Heimlich. We should start calling it abdominal thrust or something.
Okay. So that's what the Red Cross called it.
Yeah, apparently he was problematic or something. I don't know. Yeah, so he got really into street performing. Did this for a while.
Okay, with his loose skin belt.
With his loose skin belt. On a couple occasions, he ate to the point where he got sick, and so he would go to the hospital. And there was a doctor at this hospital by the name of Dr. Percy who was fascinated by this guy. I think most doctors would be like,
because then he goes,
happening?
Thank God you're back. I haven't slept since we met.
I have been thinking
about you day and night.
I've got this other thing I want to see you eat. Let's get you well so you can eat
Thank
some
God
more
you're
for
here.
my entertainment.
Yeah. Now, she may look like a nurse, but I'm going to need you to swallow her whole. Just he's got to be like a freaking python. Freaking.
That's kind of what it looked like when he ate, because his mouth was so wide. Like he could open his mouth so wide.
How?
He had
just
like a
dislodge his whole jaw?
It was like he almost had like a deformity in his jaw. And so he could, So Percy starts studying him and starts giving him different foods and watching like what happens when he digests it and how much he can eat and stuff like that. And so Percy begins this process, and this is why we know so much about this. He starts detailing a bunch of notes about what's happening with his test subject, Tarrare. Well, then a war starts. It's called the War of the First Coalition. And Tarrare, being the good countryman, he enlists in...
Goes to the front line, unlocks his jaw, and is just running down the battlefield.
So here's the thing about Tarrare is he joined the military, but the rations were not enough for him. He never felt satiated.
Right.
But especially now, like it was not nearly enough food for him. And so he would do errands for the other soldiers so he could get their rations because he was so desperate for food.
Sure.
But even that was enough. So he's just eating the army's trash for a few years. And eventually the army was like, bro,
what are you doing?
This is so weird. We'd honestly rather not have you here. And so he gets like kicked out.
Yeah. Other armies are making fun of us and like they're winning because our low morale, because they're looking over, they're going, that guy's eating out of the trash.
The other army, so you're saying the French were like, they think we're a joke because you're eating
French
garbage.
Like, ew, ew. Instead of wee wee, they're like, ew, ew.
Yeah, so they kicked him out of the army because he was
a trash eater.
He was being weird. And so he goes back home.
I didn't know that was a way you could get kicked out of the army.
Hey, could you stop? You're too weird.
Yeah, I just got discharged from the military. Hey, thanks for your service. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What'd you get discharged for?
My CO said I was really weird.
Being weird.
And so he goes back
Can I have extra toothpicks for this sandwich, please?
He goes back to London, where he gets back into street performing.
Sure.
And he meets up with his old friend Percy. And he's like, hey, you want to study me?
Hey, Doc.
Yeah. He's like, you want to study me some more? And he's like, yeah. And so they start setting up some more advanced experiments with him.
Okay.
So the first thing they did is they arranged a meal for 15 people. And they said,
you're going to eat all of it.
Go for it. Yeah. So he ate the whole thing.
The whole thing?
He ate the whole meal for 15 people. And he went into a coma, came back, and was still hungry afterwards.
You need any food?
Yeah, he's like, man, I'm pretty hungry. You got it. Remember that meal you made me for 15 people? Could I have that again? And so at this point,
that's like people who do the party tray of nuggets for themselves.
Yeah. That's great.
That's great.
Do you remember? You remember when McDonald's had the mozzarella sticks, and we would go get like 10 of those?
Yeah.
God, I miss those days.
I'd miss those days when our bodies would process that.
Yeah, true.
Now, if I eat that,
oh yeah, I'd hate myself for
I'm down
4
for
days.
a month.
Yeah, that would be. But man, those were good.
Yeah.
Okay, so but yeah, so Tarrare, Percy's studying him, and Percy had a thought. He said, "I wonder what you could eat, and I wonder what you could pass." And so what he did is he wrote a letter, and he put it in a box, and he said, "Swallow it." And so he swallowed it. And he passed it, and it was unharmed. And then all of a sudden, the military was like, "Oh, hey, we like
you again.
Hey, what's up? Remember when we didn't like you?
Hey, remember when you were being weird?
Yeah.
We want you to keep being
Why
that.
don't you come over here?
Why don't you be weird for us?"
And so that's exactly what happened. So they enlisted him.
We're going to enlist you in Weird War 1.
They enlisted him as a courier.
Yeah.
And they say, we're going to have you take sensitive documents across borders. And
great.
No one's going to know what's happening.
It's going to be in your weird belly.
And so they do some training exercises with him. They get him prepped for the whole deal or whatever. And then they do it. They have a letter that they're sending over the border. And he crosses the border, and he's trying to just act like a civilian, right? And
wee.
the soldiers at the border,
like, you're
they
weird.
meet him, and they were like, "Something's strange about you." And so they took him in, and they're questioning him, and they're like, there's something off about you. We don't know what it is. And he's like, give me some food. I'll show you. And so he just starts eating a bunch for them. And they're like, this guy's a freak. Well, then one day he passes the letter and they're like, oh, you're a spy. And so then what they did
was they were like, we're going to use that.
How good are you at this?
How good are you at spying?
So what they did is they took him in and they took him to a mock execution, which is something that apparently countries used to do, where to kind of ruffle your feathers a bit or something, or scare you into, it's like a scared straight, a really messed up scared straight.
Yeah.
They took you out to the gallows.
And then they did the thing.
They did the thing. They're like, I got you.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what they did with them. Like,
it's basically like, we could kill you.
Yeah. But then they didn't. And then they let him go. And they're like, don't go jumping on the bed. Don't bring any more letters.
No more spying on us.
No more eating letters and bringing them across the borders and being kind of weird generally.
Okay, Tarrare.
And so they let him go. And so he comes back.
You guys aren't going to believe what I saw over there.
He goes back to the military, and the military's like, man, yeah, we should have known that they would suspect something of this super weird dude with a weirdly wide mouth and the scent. And the inability to just act normal.
We should have known that our very secretive spy mission was not going to work with this very non-secretive spy person.
With this dude who's just super odd. So they gave up on him as a spy. He had a short-lived spy career because he was weird.
Me too.
So the military gave up on him. The military kicked him out of the military twice for being weird, which is pretty unfortunate. And so
2 tours.
2 tours. And so he ends up after this. He's like, I can't live with this anymore. I need a cure. So he goes back to Percy. And he's like, let's find a cure. And Percy's like, whoa, it's not really how this works.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't just cure you, but Percy's like, I'll try, and it doesn't work. So they do a bunch of tests. They try to test out a bunch of different stuff, and nothing actually cures him. And
cures him of what? Do they need to eat a lot or what?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Whatever condition he has, at this point they're confident he's got some kind of condition, because it's pretty abnormal, but they don't know what it is. So he's living in the hospital at this point, and they're running all these tests on him. And while he's there, they start testing like, okay, what would he eat? And so they're giving him entire back straps of cows, like raw meat, and like all like horse meat, like whatever. They're giving him whatever they can find and being like, will he eat it? And they're like, yes. The answer is yes.
This game's called Will He Eat It? In this game, we're promoting...
It's basically what we're doing with Joey Chestnut.
Yes.
Like everyone's just like,
hey, how many's going to eat? He eats one more every year.
Every year. He's like, what if
Joey Chestnut comes out and sees his shadow?
That's exactly what I was going to say. If we start like planning major events by how many dogs Joey Chestnut eats.
I think we do. I play the Powerball every year with that.
Yeah, whatever his total is, that's my number.
Birthday, and then
Joey's
Ray's birthday, and then the red one is however many hot dogs Joey Chestnut ate. And that way, when I win and I'm a billionaire, I gotta be like, thanks, Joey Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut. Oh my God. Hey, thanks again for listening to this episode. If you like our show, make sure you follow us on social at TILLN Podcast, or subscribe anywhere where you're listening to right now, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. And if you want more, we do have a Patreon you can support us on. In there, you get all sorts of perks like ad-free episodes, early access to our content, and even a Discord with our hosts and producers. So we'd love for you to check that out. All you got to do is text TILLN to 66866. That's TILLN to 66866. But thanks again for checking us out. Okay. So
Okay.
So he's living in the hospital, and they're like upping the ante every time they meet with him.
Sure.
But it's still not enough for him. It's still not enough. And so he's kind of like, you know, when you're at the hospital and there's that dude with the like unstrapped gown that's just walking around the hospital. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's him. Like he's just walking around the hospital. But for him, he's eating stuff.
You know what I don't like? I thought about this the other day. I was talking to my friend who works at a hospital.
Yeah.
And you can just walk into them.
Yeah. It's a little sketchy.
Yeah, like I went to, my dad was in the hospital for his accident a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just weird to walk. You just confidently walk in any room.
Yeah, you just walk wherever you want to go, and no one asks you anything.
And I walked in with like a full bag of ribs.
You did actually.
And like just sat in the corner and was eating ribs. They don't know that I didn't look anything like him either. You know, he's not my real dad. So he doesn't, I don't look anything like this guy. All right.
You're just a dude.
I don't look related to him at all.
Who likes to come eat ribs and look at sick
I just
people.
love the presence of tragedy, you know? I'm sure he'll be fine. Yeah. No, he like passed out. He like woke up and was like, earlier. So it was a great amount of pain. But he seems to be fine now.
He seems pretty good now. Yeah. He doesn't remember me, but that's not, he must have amnesia. You should check that out.
You should check that out.
Yeah.
His wife doesn't remember me either.
But that's my mom, so you should check that out too.
She sucks. So.
Yeah, she photoshopped me out of all of our family photos last year, so you won't find.
Don't listen to her.
You won't find me.
Listen to her.
It's just family, you know. That's how it goes, you know.
You guys got half a cow around here anywhere.
So he's going around the hospital just eating stuff, like whatever he can find, he just eats it. Someone
freaking used needles.
Someone estimated because of witness reports that he probably ate 29 cats during his stay at the hospital, like live cats that he was just finding outside the hospital. This is the kind of guy he was. I shouldn't say the kind of guy, because that assumes that there's other guys like that. This is who Tarrare was just in general. He was just going around and catching stray cats and eating them after getting served a full
Should we get an appetizer or is the main course? No, I had a cat on the way over.
Excuse me?
Yeah, calico.
There's a cat.
What is your cat list here? Oh, well, we've got a juicy calico. We've got a long hair.
No. The behavior started getting a little bit more disturbing. Because
more than 30 cats?
Yeah. So there's obviously it's a hospital. And so there was some patients that were doing like bloodletting, and he would go drink the blood.
I don't want to talk about it. I can't think about it.
You don't like blood. That's
I hate it.
He would, And so things were getting sketchier. I saw
Alex also get visibly uncomfortable.
Things were getting sketchier and sketchier by the minute. Yeah, Jaron has a problem with blood. I forgot about that. Do you need to take a breather?
No, I'm good.
Okay?
Keep going.
Okay,
Just change the subject now.
So he was eating a lot of blood. It all kind of culminated in a moment. Percy's doing his studies.
Okay.
Percy is so fascinated. He's writing all this stuff. He's submitting it to academic journals, trying to figure out what's going on, submitting it to the military. This culminates in a moment where a 14-month-old child goes missing in the hospital. And everybody in the hospital just assumed it was him. He claims it wasn't. But it's the first time this ever happened in the hospital. And it's pretty safe to assume that the dude who was just eating everything probably was at fault. And so Percy was going up to bat and like defending him for eating the cats and drinking people's blood and all the weird stuff.
He's like, no, the cats are normal.
But this one, Percy's like, I can't defend you anymore, man. You gotta get out of here. And so he left and skipped town. They were never able to charge him because they were never able to prove. But the child was never found. And so there's most people assumed that he ate that kid. Which is crazy. Which is super crazy. So
why do you do this? We're having a fun episode, joking about this guy eating cats. And then you drop
It's the
just
story.
tragedy at the end.
It's part of the story.
I don't like the way the story ends.
All right, cool. We'll edit it.
It's like who I'm being right now is the people who leave 1-star reviews on movies based on real life.
I didn't like the ending.
I didn't like the ending of Titanic. I didn't like the boat sank.
Yeah, it was a dark ending.
Well, that's how oh man.
Yeah. So, like The Watcher, everyone hated the ending of The Watcher. Did you watch that yet?
No.
Yeah.
It just didn't look. The Netflix series didn't look as good as our episode.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Our episode was better.
And by that I mean like it looks like they obviously had to fluff up a story
They
for
embellished
Netflix.
it a lot.
Yeah.
It was very different. It was pretty entertaining. But yeah, the ending was nothing like the ending of the actual story.
Do they do a conclusion at the end? No, they don't. They do like because that was another thing. I saw tweets being like, oh, all that stuff, we don't find out who the Watcher is.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's a real life story, you dingus.
Yeah. I liked the way they ended it, honestly.
They're never going to find out it's
nothing
me.
like the story. They're never going to find out it's me.
I mean.
So he skips town, goes up north, and is in Versailles. And while he's there, we have no record of what happened to him. It's pretty safe to assume, knowing the kind of skills and career he's built for himself, that he had two abilities. One, street performer.
Sure.
Two, bad spy. So he was doing one of those two things in Versailles.
Sure.
For a few years until he got sick. And a doctor at a hospital in Versailles mailed Percy a letter and said, hey, there is a patient I have in my hospital named Tarrare who's asking for you. He's probably going to die here soon. And so Percy drops everything and goes to Versailles to see him. And the guy ends up dying. He ends up dying of tuberculosis with Percy at his side. Percy was really kind of his only friend.
Sure.
He was this doctor who was just kind of really fascinated by him. But dies with Percy by his side, and Percy conducted the autopsy to figure out what was going on. And the autopsy didn't last long because his body toxified really quickly. And it was so noxious that they couldn't be in there in the presence of the body. So it didn't last long. But what they found in their short autopsy was that his mouth could open up into a diameter of, this doesn't sound like much to me, but 4 inches, which doesn't sound like much to me, but apparently that's pretty big.
How much is everyone else's mouth open?
Do you have a ruler?
No. What?
I was going to measure
what's the average? How much does someone's mouth open?
Average mouth span.
How many 737s is that?
This is millimeters. Somewhere between 45 and 60 millimeters. So now we got to convert millimeters to inches. About 2 inches at the biggest end.
So yeah.
Double the size of a normal mouth. It's a big mouth. What else was interesting that they discovered in this is that the whole canal all the way down was the same width. So it was 4 inches wide all the way down and directly into his stomach. And so he basically just had this cavern all the way down. And what they noticed is that all of his organs that weren't digestive organs were smaller and shifted up in his torso. And
his stomach was huge.
His stomach, his intestines were gigantic and took up the majority of his torso, where all of your
How
organs
long
are.
did he live? How old was he? We have a year?
Let me see. He died in 1798. So
20 something?
Yeah, a little over 20 years, just under 30. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, didn't live long. And so when they discovered that was about where time had ran out and they couldn't be there anymore. The theories for what was going on here, he's been something that medical journals have studied for decades after this because it's so well documented, and so they're able to go back and see what's going on. There's a few assumptions, and it's probably a handful of things that they said. What most likely happened is he had some sort of traumatic brain injury as a child that damaged most likely his amygdala, which helps regulate
which
hunger.
would kind of shut down that part of your brain that's like, okay, quit eating now. You know?
So he has no ability to understand he's not hungry anymore.
Yeah, your amygdala just does your desire part of your brain.
So he's just constantly hungry because that's damaged. There's also clearly some sort of physical deformity because his mouth is so large and his internal organs are so messed up. The question is that something that adapted over time because he was eating so much, or is that something that he was born with, that deformity?
Interesting.
And that's not entirely clear. But they also assume that he most likely had some kind of parasite that was consuming a lot of...
Had to have.
Yeah. Because, and I mean, he ate a lot of raw meat, so there was a lot of opportunity for him to get worms and other parasites and things like that. So he most likely had a handful of things going on there internally, both from the stomach spot, but also mentally. But went down as kind of a legend of a dude who ate a lot. So ate way more than Joey Chestnut. Probably could beat Joey's record, honestly.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should open a buffet called Tarrare's.
Tarrare's. Don't worry. Yeah. Well, yeah. That would be a bummer if you were a buffet owner.
Oh, he shows up. I feel gross when I see a Golden Corral. So
yeah, I do too.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have to get Joey Chestnut and Tarrare to get together on a stage and fiddle off, huh? You're still here, which means you've either walked away from the video or you just kind of gave up and just let it play in the background. Either way, thanks for doing that. Thanks for making it to the end of the episode. Through the Fiddle Off, you've made it. So there are more episodes. You can click that right there, or you can watch other videos. Make sure you subscribe to this video and whatever other things YouTubers say.